So now, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak over renewable energy policies and what is the best to reach 100% renewables. It is very important. Firstly, I will speak over the necessity that we have to go globally to 100% renewables by 2030. It is a clear outcome of the newest climate protection research that is very, very serious for the world, and we have to pay this attention more than we ever had. And the next is, how can we come to 100% renewables, and what is the best legislation for this? So first is, when we look to the last NASA report from January this year, we can repeat our Paris goal, what we all in the world do not want to exceed by 1.5 degrees global warming, is very close to us. We stay at the moment at 1.2 degrees. And in the last decades, we had a growth of temperature of 1.8 of 0.18 degrees. So this decade, we await 0.2 degrees warming. It means in about 2031, 2032, we will exceed 1.5 degrees global warming. Very serious, because at the moment the disasters on the world are already very, very high, and we must see much high disasters. Though the outcome of this is we have to come to a zero emission world globally by 2030. Otherwise, we are on a 3 degrees global warming, and we have no chance for the human society to overlive. Where does the emissions come from? The Energy Watch Group, thanks to Ture Draber, he makes an excellent work in all this research. We look to all scientific reports in the world from IPCC and others. Where comes the greenhouse gases emissions from? And we see the most emissions comes from the energy system. 55% of all greenhouse gas emissions are caused by the burning of mineral oil, of fossil gas, and of fossil coal. This is the most important impact, and therefore we must learn the switch to 100% renewables is the biggest and most important pillar for climate protection in the world. When we do not come to 100% renewables by 2030, we have no chance to stop global warming at 1.5 degrees. How can we make climate protection? It is clear. First is we have 2 pillars. First pillar is stop all greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. This means switch to 100% renewables. And the second pillar is take out all carbon what you can take out from the atmosphere with greening, with greening the deserts, with planting trees, make organic farming instead of intensive farming, and plenty more. Energy Watch Group, together with La Penranta University, showed that a 100% renewable world is possible. And we see the share of renewables in a 100% renewable world would be nearly 70% by solar, 18% by wind power, and 3, 2, or 6% by bioenergy, by geothermal, and by hydropower. All is important because the 3 smaller ones are not small. It is very big volume what we need in the world, but they already can balance the fluctuations of wind and solar. And when we add storage systems to it, we can get a reliable and adequate renewable energy supply all over the world, on every place of the world, in every hour, all over the year. This must be the target to get it by 2030. It is easy to do it because now renewable energies is the cheapest option in the world to create energy. Nuclear, fossil gas, hard coal is around €100 per megawatt hour. Wind power is at the moment at 50, and it will decline as well as solar. It is much cheaper. It is wind and solar are now the cheapest source of energy in the world. Therefore, it is stupid to go on with polluting the world, because we can have the world much cheaper than with polluting the world. And therefore, we must influence all politicians to go this strategy. It is an economic way and not an economic burden to go to climate protection. Plenty people from abroad of the world look to Germany and see how fast the increase of renewables can be. And we have in the first quarter of this year 52% of renewable electricity share. It is amazing, because no one believed it 10 years or 20 years ago that it would be possible. But when we have a good support, it is much more possible. But this overlooks what happens really in Germany. Stefan mentioned it already here in the example of wind power. We had, with a switch to wind power in auctioning system, and decline from nearly 5 megawatt yearly investment in 2017 in onshore wind power to only less than one in 2019. This is very dramatic. It is in solar nearly the same, in bioenergy the same. So the switch to auctioning is a bad influence, like in India and like in plenty other countries. We need other political support, and the question is, what is the main policy, the necessity for renewable growth, and how can we go to it? The first is, we must create political frameworks that the private money will flow into clean technologies, into renewables, into clean chemistry, in all what makes no emissions. And the experience in the world is feed-in tariff is the best way to stimulate this private investment into clean technologies. Auctionings can happen in a big range for utility scale, about 40 megawatt, because decentralized community actors can invest into about 4 megawatt wind parks and solar parks. They can realize it, but in a gigawatt park, they cannot realize it. There is auctioning, okay. And we can help the countries in developing regions with a get-fit system, what is already realized in Uganda and in other countries, to support the investors and make not so high burden for the electricity consumers. Very important is a combined power plant remuneration, not yet realized in the world. We from the Energy Watch Group propose it today with the first paper. I will come back later to some details to it. And it is very important, because we must switch to reliable and adequate renewable energy supply, and not only to single investment here in solar park and there in wind park and there in biogas stations, that the grid operator has too high burden to balance it. We can balance it by our investment, and this combined power plant remuneration will stimulate such an investment with a feed-in tariff. But very important is also to abolish all subsidies in fossil and nuclear investment. This is much more important than a carbon, methane or radioactivity tax. We must go to research and education and reduce all obstacles in licensing and approvals and plenty more. This is the most important framework. When we do this worldwide in all nations, then we can achieve 1.5 degrees global warming by 2030. Otherwise, we will exceed it. And the historical breakthrough in feed-in tariff law was clear. The key points how to make an effective feed-in tariff law are clear. We need a privileged grid access. We need a feed-in tariff that is appropriate for economic operation. This feed-in tariff must be funded by electricity rate, not by tax paying, not by public funding, because the finance minister now in the Corona crisis will see only overloaded public funding, and he has no money for it. Therefore, it must be spread by electricity rate. No cap for a feed-in tariff like auctioning system has. Caps are only removing and reducing the investment into renewables, and we need a guaranteed period for remuneration. How can we make this proposal? You can find our Energy Watch Group proposal on our homepage today, and you can read the papers. I will tell you only some very important principles. Tariff must be paid per law. We need a new law beside of the Renewable Energy Act. And the obligations for the investor is he must create a power generation that meets the demand each hour of the year. He is allowed to make his mix of 100% renewable power what is the best for him. But he must bring frequency, voltage stability, and reactive power. All he must guarantee. The effects of such an power producer feed-in tariff would be grid stability from bottom up and not from top down by the grid operators. We would see sector coupling, because when you have overflow in solar and wind production, give it to the heating and cooling systems, to the e-mobility and others. We will see a lot of new storage development and emerge of smart cities and others. It is an innovation stimulant that would be very, very positive and very great. The idea is the investor of these ideas, he must follow the grid operator not base load, the grid operator residual load. You see it in the gray line. The green one is what the investor will bring, and he makes an obligation with the grid operator how to finance it, how to do it, and then the financing will flow back. And we see we can have a new feed-in tariff with it, because it is possible to remunerate with 8 cents. We made a scientific report in a region, in my home region, in a small, with 100,000 people, and we simulated 100% renewables there, and we could find out we need only 8 € per kilowatt hour to refinance such investment. It is cheaper than all of fossil and nuclear, even when we make it as a balanced investment. And therefore, go to this, make such investment, choose your best possibilities of wind power, solar power, of bioenergy, wood power, hydro energy, combine it with electrolyzers, with heat pumps, with batteries, with heat storage and others. When you have overflow of electricity, give it to the grid. You will bring back your financing with this new combined power remuneration, and you will refinance your investment when you avoid your big money to buy oil and gas and coal. It is too expensive for you. Go to the cheap option. That's what we want to stimulate. And when you have a law by your nations, every nation can do it. And India, as well as Japan or Saudi Arabia, everyone can make such a law. Do it in your parliaments, and we will see it would be possible to come to 100% renewables by 2030. Thank you for attention. When anyone wants to have support for your parliamentarians to make such a law, we from Energy Watch Group will support you. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much, Hans-Josef. I think this was an excellent presentation, and I'm very happy about your proposal. Because I see that the renewable energy community really needs to now come up with new proposals. We've become a bit defensive the last couple of years and just seeing how to deal with auctions. It doesn't work well in most parts of the world, but I believe that your proposal will bring a new momentum into this debate, and I hope that soon the first governments will adopt that and invite their industries to adopt it, because I think that's also a very interesting part of that. it leaves the final choice of the technologies really to the market. So it looks like really it's market driven. Hans-Josef, I know that you're also short of time. Let's just briefly see whether we have a direct question to you. There have been some questions that have already, I think, been answered by your presentation. One was how far storage is included in your system, so you would leave that obviously up to the market. One question from Rainer Sonnenberger. Hans-Josef, do you have a model calculation of the concept presented on your second to last page? Any use case running already? I think you can certainly answer the basis of your calculations.
Yeah, we have simulations only in big regions globally. Together with La Penranta University, we could simulate 100% renewables by all storage needed and a full balanced system. We have now some regional ones. Energy Watch Group made one in the region Bad Kissingen in Germany, but we have two less of these ones. But the investor of such an operating system with balanced renewable power system in a hospital, in any factory or anywhere, or in a private house or anyone, he must go to the engineers and let's make him a plan with it. It is important to make it on this level with the engineers. It is not otherwise possible, but we need plenty of engineers who can do it. We have too less of them still in the world, but when we beg for them, more and more of them will study how to do it.
And I mean, we have seen the last 20 years how the renewable technology has developed because of motivated people, because of engineers, because of people. Actually, you were one of the first who introduced a solar PV installation in your hometown, including the first feed-in tariff. So you're part of the practical side of the solution. I think also that there is many people who would be waiting for such an opportunity. I do not see directly, I mean, there are some questions in the chat which are a bit longer, which I don't think we can read now. I think there are some remarks you can have a look that are more kind of confirming what you've said. Thank you very much from my side. If you want a final statement before we hand over to the next speaker.
Yeah, thank you for your attention. And when you really are interested, please contact to the Energy Watch Group only by internet, and we will try to help you. We are a very small board, but we are an intensive board, and we can help you to bring the papers and discuss you with your politicians to go to this way. And I would be happy when any nations would be so strong that they will say, yes, we do not know if it works, but we see no one could know in the year 2000 that the feed-in tariff law could work. We had no one in the world, but we did it in the German parliament, and afterwards we could see it was the biggest stimulus what we ever had for renewable energies. And the same will happen with this key points with a legislative initiative for reliable and adequate renewable energy supply. Thank you.
Very good. Again, thank you very much, Hans-Josef, and then we will publish also the recording of your presentation, which I think also people may want to share with government representatives, parliamentarians, etc., because I think it gives a very good explanation of your proposal. So thank you, and then